Hey everybody. Excuse this fine video quality, but I realized I thought I had a video created for this, but I do not. So I wanted to hop on and give you, just go through the whole assignment and give you some feedback. Some of you were a little bit confused on the difference between correlations and experiments. Some of you are a little bit confused with independent as opposed to dependent variables. And there's a couple other things. So I'm just going to go through each one and talk it over. And again, I know I said this in my replies to you, but if any of you have any questions after hearing this, please reach out to me. I would love to speak with you and clarify. So here we go. Number one, university officials noticed that there's a relationship between scores on the ACT and performance in college. Students with the highest scores tend to do the best in school. So they did not control anything. They just compared data sets, right? So they looked at students' ACT scores and they looked at their performance in college and said, oh, there's a relationship between these two things. So we know it's a correlation. And because as scores on the ACT increase, so do grades in college, there is a positive correlation because as one variable increases, the other one increases as well. Number two, a researcher, is interested in whether people are more likely or less likely to help someone in distress when others are present. Some subjects were tested when they alone witnessed someone in distress, while others were tested when many people were present. The researcher discovered that witnesses were much more likely to help when they alone witnessed the person in distress. So for this one, they did create an experiment because we don't have sets of data on this, right? And if we just waited for people to see others in distress, we'd be waiting forever. So they created a situation where some subjects were exposed to a condition where they were by themselves when they saw somebody in distress, and other subjects were tested when they were with other people. So the independent variable, what the researcher manipulates and controls, is whether they were alone or with others. What they're measuring, what depends, we don't know for sure, we have a hypothesis, but we don't know for sure, is whether they help or not. So are they more likely to help when they're with others, or are they more likely to help when they're by themselves? A few of you actually kind of confused the dependent variable with the results. So the dependent variable is what we're measuring. It's not the actual outcome. And the outcome may confirm our hypothesis or disconfirm our hypothesis, but for this assignment, all we're concerned about is the variables. Number three, in an attempt to determine which method would assure the best class attendance, an educational psychologist had one teacher reward students for attending class with extra points, a second teacher punish absences by deducting points, a third teacher scold students for absences, and a fourth teacher do nothing. Attendance was best in the first class when the teacher rewarded the students. So again, this is a situation that's being controlled, right? They're manipulating what the attendance policy is. And be careful to be specific about those variables, both independent and dependent. So in this case, the independent variable is the attendance policy. It's what they controlled and manipulated. And then they look to see which one of these policies actually has the best effect on attendance. So the attendance is actually the dependent variable. Number four, a researcher who was suspicious that hyperactivity in children was related to the amount of sugar in their diet recorded both sugar intake and activity level for a sample of children over a 5-month period. The results indicated that those children who had consumed the most sugar tended to be the most active. This was a common one for getting caught. So this one, they did not control how much sugar these kids consumed. They didn't say anything about, they created different groups and gave some kids a lot of sugar, some kids no sugar, some kids a little sugar, none of that. They just recorded sugar intake over a period of time as well as recorded activity level. So again, it's a correlation, and what they found was that children who consume the most sugar tended to be the most active. So as sugar intake increases, so does activity level. So a positive correlation. Number five, in an investigation of drug abuse, it was noted that there's a relationship between the age at which an individual first started experimenting with drugs and the severity of the drug abuse problem. Those who experimented with drugs at the earliest age tended to be those with the most drug abuse problems. Okay, so this one's another correlation. Ethically, of course, you couldn't expose young kids to drugs, right? So all we can do is compare the age at which people report that they first started experimenting with drugs and then the severity of the drug abuse problem later. So this one's a correlation. However, for this one, as the age of first use is younger, so as first use age lowers, the severity of later drug problems increases. So they move in opposite directions to each other, so it's a negative correlation. Number 6, to investigate the relationship between anxiety and test performance, 3 groups of subjects are tested under one of the following conditions: high anxiety, moderate anxiety, or low anxiety. The moderate anxiety group performs better on the test than either the high or low anxiety groups. Okay, so this one, they obviously created levels of anxiety, degrees of anxiety. And so the level of anxiety they were tested under is the independent variable. That's what was manipulated. And then the dependent variable, what they measure, is test performance. So again, be careful. The dependent variable is not the same as, oh, they found that the moderate anxiety group performed better. That's the results. Just go back a step and look at, okay, what were they looking at? And what they were looking at is anxiety level and how it affects test performance. And finally, in a study of animal motivation, researchers varied the number of hours the laboratory animals were deprived of food. While some had food continuously available, others were deprived for 12 hours and some were deprived for 24 hours. The researchers discovered that the animals deprived for 24 hours worked harder for food than did the others. So again, this one is an experiment. We know this because they manipulated and controlled how long the dogs were deprived of food. That's our independent variable. And then what they measured was how hard they would work for food, or their motivation. That was the dependent, so how their motivation or how hard they worked was the dependent variable. So that's all of them. I know I went through that pretty quick. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. And if you did not do as well on this assignment as you hoped, don't worry, it's one of many. And there are a couple extra credit options at the bottom of our Moodle page that you can use to completely replace one of the writing assignments if you want to. So if you miss one or you don't like your grade, you're welcome to do that at any time. There's a final deadline posted there, but you can turn them in anytime. All right, that's it. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.